Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Ginsburg of the Ezra Habanim Niles Township Jewish Congregation, Skokie. This video will attempt to explain Purim. Now, first of all, we have to talk about the central biblical book that is the basis of the holiday of Purim, the book of Esther. The story is set in approximately the 4th century BCE in Persia, where the Jewish people did live from the time that the great Persian king Cyrus defeated the Babylonians and let the Jews return who wanted to and rebuild the Holy Temple in Israel, and many stayed in Persia. But the book of Esther is an historical novel. It's not factually correct. Now, I know there are some Jews, probably the Orthodox, that will consider that heretical, but it's simply never intended by the author to be an historical book. It doesn't mention God's name directly to give us a hint. And there are so many basic facts that prove to us it's not historical. First of all, it's inconceivable that a non-Jewish king would allow his subjects, his Jewish subjects, to slay other subjects. It just could not happen. Number two, the names Esther and Mordechai are clearly references to the pagan deities of Ishtar and Marduk. And it was kind of tongue-in-cheek that they were named that way by the author of this book. Third, we know the queen of Achashverosh, the king, and it was not Esther. We know the names, and it was not Vashti. Fourth, the author clearly lived later and got much of the chronology of the book wrong, we know from other historical sources. Fifthly, we know of the fact that God's not mentioned in the book, that the author did not intend to take it historically literally. And sixth, we know that when you think about the idea in the book that Mordechai was descended from King Saul 600 years earlier, Saul lived, and that Haman, the bad guy in the story, was descended from Agag, the king of Amalek, who battled with King Saul 600 years before, you know that it's not meant to be direct. It's meant to follow the idea of our Passover Seder that in every generation someone arises who tries to destroy us. Essentially, the story is that this King Achashverosh had a queen, and he banished her because she wouldn't dance lasciviously in front of his troops. And then he needed a new queen, and so this Jewish girl Esther was picked. Meanwhile, Haman, his Secretary of State, had a hatred for the Jews and got the king to agree by throwing lots, which are Purim, on a certain day to kill the Jews. But Mordechai, the new Queen Esther's cousin, was able to intervene with the queen and prevail upon him to change the decree and to have Haman hanged on the gallows with his sons, and the Jews were saved. Now, we celebrate by hearing the story, the Megillah chanted. We also dress up in costumes and have a lot of fun and make noise with noisemakers whenever we hear that bad guy Haman's name made. We have a feast, we exchange gifts with one another, and we give tzedakah, charity to the poor. Now, another aspect of this that's very important to mention is the history. Following the Maccabees in 580 and 165 defeating the Greeks, it wasn't over yet, because the Antiochus' nephew, Demetrius, continued to battle Judah the Maccabee. He sent a general named Nicanor into battle against Judah the Maccabee, who was slain on the 13th of Adar. And the Jews of that period, the Hasmoneans, had a day on the 13th of Adar called Nicanor Day to celebrate the death and victory over the general Nicanor against the Syrian Greeks. Well, the Pharisees were not happy with the Hasmoneans, and when the Pharisees and then the rabbis gained control of Judaism, they needed a holiday to replace Nicanor Day, and so Purim became the day to celebrate. Hope this helps you understand the truth about Purim, and doesn't change the fact that we shouldn't have a great time. We should, reading the book and celebrating with costumes and joy and noise and parties, because it is true that in every generation someone arises who tries to destroy us. It's again a Persian, the king of Iran, who says he wants to destroy every Jew living in Israel and Jews worldwide. We have these problems to deal with, and Purim gives us an opportunity and joy and celebration to reflect on our survival, because everyone who has tried to curse us and hurt us, even though they've done great damage, is now vanished on the pit of history, and we're still here. And so I hope this helps further on the understanding of Purim and in great celebration.